what cybercrime is today is very different, right? So now we're talking about deepfakes, we're talking about AI generated scams, we're talking about threats that don't just infiltrate, but also impersonate. So I'd love to understand, why are these threat actors increasingly succeeding with fraud attempts in the AI era?
AI has given them a velocity and a sophistication that makes it so much easier. You can train that AI to write not only very sophisticated sounding phishing emails that are very realistic, but have the nuances and the mannerisms that the recipient would expect, and it makes it all the more convincing. So that's how they get in. Obviously, deepfake voice has been around for a long time. It's just really easy to do now.
Welcome to Discover Dialogues podcast, powered by TechDogs. The world of business and technology is evolving at breakneck speed. AI breakthroughs, digital transformation, and game-changing innovations are reshaping industries every day. On this show, we dive into the trends, ideas, and strategies driving the future. We're sitting down with industry leaders, innovators, and disruptors to bring you fresh insights, bold perspectives, and real conversations that matter. So plug in, tune in, and let's discover what's next.
Today on the show, we have Carl Froggett, Chief Information Officer at Deep Instinct. From securing one of the world's largest banks at Citi to now leading AI-driven threat prevention at a cutting-edge cybersecurity startup, Carl brings a rare lens on how the game has changed. We talk deepfakes, zero-day threats, the power of deep learning, and why fighting AI-powered attacks requires more than just traditional defenses. Let's dive in.
Again, welcome to another episode of TechDogs Discover Dialogues, Carl. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
No, pleasure to all mine. Thank you, Vikram.
Right, so let's rewind a bit, Carl. So before joining Deep Instinct, you spent over 2 decades at Citi, where you were defending one of the largest financial institutions from, the constant drumbeat of cyber threats. And then you did something that a lot wouldn't. You traded the scale and the scalability and the stability of a global bank for a high stakes agility of a cybersecurity startup, and that kind of talks a lot about the mindset. So I want to really start there. Can you've obviously worn a lot of hats, from engineering, you've gone to ops, you've gone to strategy. What is the biggest mindset shift moving from a global bank to a cybersecurity startup?
I think the biggest shift is the agility. Number one, especially being in a startup, it's an interesting space. So just to give the viewers a context, one of my roles at Citi was working with Citi Ventures and cybersecurity startups. So a little security company that you may have heard of called Palo Alto Networks,
yes.
way back in 2003, 2005,
right.
Was one that I found, having met Niazuk in London, and he pitched this idea. And so, that was a great success, obviously, especially for Palo Alto Networks. And we did that as part of my role because we were really looking at, as we looked at our strategy in cyber, it's very clear, and it still resonates today, that startups are required because the cyber threat landscape shifts so much. And Palo Alto Networks is actually a good example of where they have grown, but they managed to kind of keep up, I feel. But there are many examples of startups being acquired by larger companies that ultimately fail for various reasons, or they're not able to defend against the threat landscape because it keeps shifting, and you need continuous improvement and investment. So
Right.
in my entire career, startups have always been part of our strategy. Don't get me wrong, we still had the core kind of big vendors that we would work with. But as the threat landscape shifts, you'll find niches that the larger vendors either are not able to cover or they're just a little bit slow. And obviously working in a big place like Citi, a very target-rich environment for bad actors, we couldn't afford that. So we used to plug in companies like Deep Instinct to augment, and in the case of Deep Instinct, replace existing legacy solutions. So it made it really exciting.
And obviously, that's a fascinating shift, right? So obviously, there was a lot of conviction, as against. I mean, I would say there's a lot of conviction to override the comfort that you were in. Fantastic. So, Carl, obviously, we've talked about this personal transition now, right? And let's talk about the digital ones that are happening, right? Because when I think when you stepped into Deep Instinct, what cybercrime was and what cybercrime is today is very different, right? So now we're talking about deepfakes, we are talking about AI-generated scams, we're talking about threats that don't just infiltrate, but also impersonate. So I'd love to understand, why are these threat actors increasingly succeeding with fraud attempts in the AI era?
Oh, I think if you, and let's have a good conversation on this one. If you look at what the threat actors are doing, I think it follows a very similar plan that they've had before, right? If you think of impersonation, they cold call, IT help desk, phishing, they've been doing that for eons, and it's still pretty much always in the top three kind of root causes of a breach. So I think if you look at the avenue that a bad actor's taking, I'm trying to think. I don't think there's too much change there.
Okay.
What's happened is AI has given them a velocity and a sophistication that makes it so much easier. And if you think of it this way, they used to need experience and expertise.
Correct.
They needed coders.
Yeah.
They needed hackers looking for 0 days. They needed people in the recent press, the 16 billion password. They needed people to sift through that and make sense of it. So AI has enabled, and specifically on the LLMs, has enabled them to really take that to the next level. So if we touch on, you mentioned impersonation. So people often think of voice and video, but impersonation in phishing, right? So you can use an AI, feed it LinkedIn, feed it this video cast that's going to go out at some point,
train it.
and train it to be Carl.
Right.
And then if you then do that, or to be obviously probably more the CEO, the CFO, but you can train that AI to write not only very sophisticated sounding phishing emails that are very realistic, but have the nuances and the mannerisms that the recipient would expect, and it makes it all the more convincing. So that's how they get in. Obviously, deepfake voice has been around for a long time. It's just really easy to do now. And the idea for the audience here is it's intent based. It's not experience or instruction based. I wish to do this. You prompt engineer, and you've got so many different types of AI, VO3 for video and audio, ChatGPT. The bad actors have got, they're on the dark web, they've got their dark AI, as Gartner phrased it, which have no morality, which have no guardrails, no safety mechanisms. So, all bets are off. You can ask it to pretty much try and do anything. So it's really that their tool set has enabled them to succeed more. I think the attacks are still fundamentally the same at the end of the day.
So one of the things I came across was that Deep Instinct recently published the Voice of SecOps report. Would love for you to kind of break it down a little bit for us.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I have a high degree of integrity. Sorry for all the marketing people out there. But what I can attest to, especially in my career, I used to read these reports, and some of them you were kind of, you're not so sure about. I'm involved in this one. It is. All our respondents are on the front line. They're all cybersecurity operations engineers, and whilst obviously we collate the responses and put them into what I can only say is the best looking PDF I've seen in a long time. So hats off to our marketing team for doing that. The responses are 100%. From the field, right? And so it's a really interesting read. I actually did a webinar talking through it last week, but it really highlights the impact of AI. So if you look through the SecOps report, you'll see 4 out of 5 of the respondents have increased their use of AI in their security operations. I don't know what the other 1 in 5 are doing. They probably didn't know, but I find it hard to believe that not everybody's at least experimenting with AI today. You'll also find that 3 out of 4, roughly, changed their cybersecurity strategy within the last 12 months to accommodate AI. Right? So it's interesting. I read that from the fact that AI is having such an impact in their business, in enabling their business is using it. So they've had to revise their security strategy for what is good use of AI in a company, and obviously that impacts SecOps as well. And then roughly 2/3 had deployed AI detection tools, right? And that's kind of what we just touched on with the bad actor.
Right.
This is where you can fight AI, with AI, and they're using AI tools to at least detect things that they would otherwise miss. So there's a whole lot of interesting reads in there. The one that jumped out at me initially, and I do just want to mention it, is we ask questions around the understanding of AI, because there are different types of AI. Absolutely. And they're not all suited for the same thing. An interesting correlation was the verticals that could not explain AI as well also reported that they had the most breaches compared to our population.
Oh,
now that really stood out to me, because I obviously consume this stuff all the time. And what that kind of says to me is, obviously there's from a learning perspective, as running big teams before, making the time for your staff to understand the tool and understand the differences is still important, right? That's what the results would show. But we haven't really had time. There's not really, when was ChatGPT made a big splash about 3 years ago, and since then it's gone crazy. But it's a really interesting correlation that because you may be implementing the wrong AI in the wrong scenario. Hate to say it, you might be getting fed marketing from other vendors who are like, "Hey, we've got AI," and is it really? And if it is it machine learning? I think I first deployed machine learning 15 or 20 years ago. It's not new.
Yeah, it's right? Not new. Yeah, I think a lot of people get that wrong.
Right, it's not, and so I see a lot of the market kind of saying, "Hey, we're creating, we have our tool, whatever the tool is.
Right.
We're creating all this data. You now need to go and buy another AI from us that we'll charge you for."
Right.
So that you can make better sense of the data that we're generating for you on the other tool that you've paid.
Yeah.
They're not addressing the root cause of the problem. It is literally a response to, well, we've got to have an AI strategy. Let's do the easiest thing.
Absolutely.
And you're still in this mentality of detect and respond. You're still in this mentality of the bad thing happened and then you're in a crisis. Seconds, minutes, hours later, if not days in some scenarios. So the big thing for me about Deep Instinct was deep learning. We're the only cybersecurity company that leverages deep learning, which is the next evolution of machine learning. It's a more advanced machine learning.
Correct.
And this was highlighted in our survey about the nuances of different AIs and the characteristics of deep learning. You want to fight fire with fire. You want the best AI that's currently available, and that's deep learning, and that's what we do. And that was another reason why I joined Deep Instinct.
Fantastic. A couple of things stood out for me, right? So I think the correlation that you guys found out specifically to the fact that, the more, and I would say, uninitiated you are in AI, and it could be any business division or a group of people, right? The more the chances of, they getting, attacked by AI threat actors. I think it's something which is very important to understand for all businesses, because which essentially means that as a part of your AI strategy, businesses have to also ensure that everybody understands what AI is capable of doing. And not doing as well, actually. And I'm going to quickly just pivot to one of the tests that you guys did at Deep Instinct. You guys took some video and you showed it to your employees, and you had some interesting results to share. I would love to understand what was that all about.
That was just a little bit of fun that my team had in, obviously we conduct security training like any good company should, and awareness. And so how do you best convey the power of AI rather than just talking about it? We actually created a fake deepfake video using tools, and we used it. It was our CEO. He was in the loop, so we were good. And we used it to open the training, because obviously we have Zoom and we have people in person, but we have people remote.
Right.
So on the remote ones, and so CEO kind of gave the opening, whatever, all fake. It had the biggest impact over all the other really interesting things that everybody's been through security training. But it had the biggest impact, and it was a great way to demonstrate how easy it is to fool people.
So personally, and at the business end, we are exploring AI avatars at the moment. Where we're trying to figure out if we could create avatars of me and a few key people. And I'm assuming that's for the good. That's AI put to good use, because you would want to put out a lot of content. You have so many things to share, but may not necessarily be possible because of time constraints or, shoot constraints and so on. I'm thinking I'm going to try and do a similar test at our end as well. Just to kind of see how the employees react. And I think it'd be a good learning point or a starting point for us to figure out if our company is ready for what's to come next in terms of AI threat actors. But having said that,
we did just on a similar vein from a threat perspective.
Right.
So it's really hard to demonstrate the value of what we do. And it's really hard. And again, as our survey, the difference between machine learning and deep learning and what that really means.
Right.
And it sounds a little bit magical, especially for me. I mean, I deployed machine learning for 20 years. So when deep learning comes along and the claim is it can find zero-day malware, zero-day threats, the claim that it doesn't need to be connected to the cloud to do that, and actually some of our biggest customers are totally disconnected from the internet. Ministry of Defense is one.
Right.
Shipping is another. When the ships are offshore, they don't have a lot of bandwidth.
Yeah.
So so these claims of you can prevent a piece of malware and a threat that was created months after I deploy, and there's no updates. And that is the fundamental difference of machine learning and deep learning. So one of the demos that we've just done, and it really ties into your question here, Vikram, is we've used readily available LLMs, and we can demo this to anybody who wants to see it, and we demo it in real time, and we use real LLMs that are readily available to create zero-day ransomware, zero-day threats, that are unique and never been seen before.
Crazy.
And then we compare, and obviously we put it through our deep learning brain, as we call it, and it says, I haven't seen this before, and I don't have a name for it, but it's malicious, and here are the parts that make it malicious, right? I don't know, it's trying to encrypt files, it's trying to do this, right? So we really break it down using another tool that we have called Diana to explain very quickly, in seconds, all the components in real time that make it malicious, even though it's never been seen before. Now, we demo this in front of people, and we use one of our salespeople who, believe me, can't code, can barely turn his phone on, right? But we're demoing that whole, you don't need experience anymore. You just need intent. And then if you can, work with the AI to create true zero-day, and then demonstrate that passes through all the existing machine learning solutions because they rely on updates. Right. And this was one of the weak points that I found several years ago that led me ultimately to Deep Instinct, because we were seeing this trying to defend one of the largest banks at the time, right? So combining, it's such an effective demo because people, you can talk about it, but then they see it and they see how effective it is at bypassing other solutions. It's just as compelling as the Vikram deepfake that's going to open the security training at TechDog.
Right. So the way I look at it, it's not just a firewall that you would build, right? So it's you talked about the culture aspect of it.
It was when I didn't have grey hair, right?
But now
when I didn't have so many wrinkles. That's where I started. I started coming out of university. Actually, the first job coming out of university was American Express and a couple of others doing kind of regular IT help desk support. And then I moved into Solomon Brothers at the time, doing cabling and trade. And then I moved in a trade floor, and I did the trading floor for a couple of years. That was amazing, just an amazing experience. But then what happened as the business became more digital, the internet took off, but you had other kind of networking technologies that made everything more connected. You now needed a real understanding of cyber, because so this is the perimeter and all that kind of thing. So it used to be a firewall and a proxy was pretty good. That was I want to put that at the late 90s, Vikram, when that started disappearing, mate.
No, so I'd rather rephrase that. So I'll probably say that we've moved from firewalls to culture, if I was to put it.
Nice.
And
it's both. It's both.
Yeah, and it's also education. Right? So you mentioned education is also a key parameter. And then because we're talking CISOs, being embedded in every function, it's obviously in some ways a cohesion, or a coherence that you're trying to bring across all the functions as well. If I have that right. Yeah.
So look, there's and again, we say CISO, but really anybody in cyber.
Right.
It's about communicating the value.
Right.
the value that what you want to do, but time and time again, and if any of my old team are listening, right, they always go into the technology, and it's like nobody cares. The business generally don't care. What does it bring to the business? What's the business rationale?
Absolutely.
Why should, and we'll say the CEO, why should they invest the time and money? So how you can do that is, and again, the audience here, there's a lot of different things, but if you come out with that mindset, you will get support. Because, as I say, the bad actor, they don't really care where the weak point is. So, if we build off the identity, the HR piece, if you've got multiple identity systems and they're run by disparate teams who don't talk to each other, game over.
Yeah.
If you have multiple network security, firewall, SASE, whatever teams that are not and working in unity with each other, game over. There are gaps. If you look at a lot of the breaches and how the bad actors kind of get through, obviously we talked about phishing, right? You're not turning email off, so you need to deal with that.
Right.
But what we see is that there's a lot of leverage of zero-day vulnerabilities, right? I think there was a Unit 42 report last year. 60% of the CVEs that were zero-day were targeted against infrastructure, right? So firewalls, network, right? Because everybody still needs that stuff.
Yeah.
So, if you're not working together, and you've got all these little silos or kingdoms or fiefdoms, it's just a matter of time, right? So that's the business value that you've got to put forward, and then you come with the threat perspective, right? So what does that really mean? Well, if we can't be assured of our configuration end to end, that we have a good configuration in real time or near real time, right? There's a gap, right? So there are simple ways that you can convey for the business to understand, and then you play through. And again, I was always very much with the business about, hey, your data and your servers and your storage is really what the bad actor wants.
Correct.
Right? They don't really care about Carl, maybe, but that's what they want. So that's what we're going to protect. And to protect that, we're not going to wait for them to get to the server before we do something. That's ridiculous, right? Like, everybody's running some sort of endpoint security, right? But that's your last resort. If that fails, game over.
Absolutely.
The same with storage, right? If that fails, game over. So you want to push the threat as far out as you can.
Absolutely.
And that's what we do, with Deep Instinct. We have storage solutions, and we have application and infrastructure solutions.
Right.
And the whole idea that I had was assume it fails. Assume the thing that the firewall, the whatever. Just assume it fails.
Yeah.
It could fail because of a zero day. It could fail more likely because of a misconfiguration, right? And then things get through. So that's where our customers are inserting us, because we're very fast and very flexible, to mitigate those threats and to protect the asset, to protect the crown jewels, right? But they're leveraging deep learning, not machine learning, so we're just a whole lot better at eliminating those threats before they even have a chance to get there, right?
Absolutely. And I would love to double click on this a little. But before that, what I'm hearing is that we're almost entering this new chapter where AI isn't just a part of the problem, but is also the key to the solution, right? And I think that's a very different chapter or age that we are going to be living in. Because earlier we had predictability, now we don't have that. And You talked about deep learning.
I love it. I hope our marketing team's listening. We're going to use that phrase. We used to have predictability, and now we don't. But it is so true, Vikram.
Right.
It is so. What you've just said is so true. That makes it really exciting for somebody like me, but it makes it very stressful as well.
Yes. For people who
maybe that's the reason I left and went to Deep Instinct, right? Like, but no.
Right.
That it is, and this is the whole fight AI with AI,
Right.
that you need to do. But
Right.
like I say, fight AI, the machine, the bad guys AI, with better AI, right? With deep learning, and it is. So I've been through 3 or 4 big cycles in my career, and I've been doing this for over 30 years, right? So obviously the first one was just PCs hitting around, I'm aging myself, but around the mid-90s.
Yeah, so we talked about predictability, and how obviously things are different now because we've entered this new chapter where AI is not only the problem but is also the solution in many ways, right?
Yep.
And the thing that I wanted to double click specifically, Carl, was on deep learning, right? And how it is more effective at prevention than just at detection. And I know that you mentioned it at the start where you're doing these demos with clients where you're taking LLMs and you could really create a threat. And then, but I would love to understand a little more on how.
No, sure. So when we first meet customers, and so like I say, they initially don't believe what we say, and part of that is because we all like to be comfortable with the things that we've been told for the last 10, 15, 20 years about what is actually possible.
Right.
So I think of it really, if I think of some of my journey in the cyberspace, we kind of went from what we called access control lists and ACLs, and then the bad actors kind of figured that out pretty quickly, and then we went to stateful inspection firewalls, and then ultimately Palo Alto Networks, kind of revolutionized that with App ID. And really, I see the same kind of journey that Deep Instinct is doing with deep learning, moving from signatures to machine learning, and now to deep learning. And with those, just like App ID in the network space was, how's that possible? You can't possibly do what you do. It's the same evolution. So, but fundamentally, if you look at the differences between machine learning and deep learning, you'll see that deep learning is ideally suited to cybersecurity and cybersecurity threats. And the reason for that is because machine learning, and it's really the way it's built and learns, it learns on a very small amount of the available data. So the analogy I like to use, and it's called TechDog, so we'll use dogs because I happen to love dogs, right? And it's a very high level analogy, but it helps people understand. First of all, in teaching, in training machine learning, people are involved. There are features and things that experts are needed to, as I call it, tweak the knobs and give the features that they think are important.
Right.
Give them a weight. Now, a threat can have billions and billions and billions of features.
Correct.
And so it's not possible, right, for a human to kind of have all those knobs. And that's what I mean about the data is discarded. So if you take the dog analogy, right, you take 5% of the available information. So let's just make it easy. You take the external characteristics of the dog. Right, it's got, I don't know, 4 legs and a tail and a snout and eyes and teeth. But I've just described a lion, I've just described a tiger, I've just described a cat, right? So you can see how, first of all, it's hard to do, and second, that you end up with false positives.
Right.
Because ultimately, you're trying to be accurate and avoid false positives as well. So, and part of that, the big reason for that is around it only takes a small part of the available data. People are involved in the creation and the learning, and you need constant updates. It is no good at predicting something that it hasn't seen before, right? Now, deep learning is a neural network. It learns like you and I learn, right? So if I take my dog analogy, when we're training deep learning, the first thing is there's no person involved in the neural network learning what threats are, right? We put them in and we look at the output. There's nobody involved. So that means it's taking every single piece of data and learning from it. Now, using my dog analogy, it's taking the whole dog, right? No dogs are harmed in the filming of this episode, right? But it's taking the whole dog, include all the way down to the DNA and that, like, right? So it is able, when you give it a new dog that looks totally different on the outside, but it's never seen before, because it's got all the available data from all the other dogs it's seen, it can go, this is absolutely a dog, but I've never seen it before, so I don't really know its name, but here are all the reasons why it's a dog. Now, dogs turn into threats. That's exactly what we do for threats. We train our deep learning. It learns on its own. It takes every bit of information that's available. There is no limit on feature extractions and humans being involved. And the models that we train and ultimately give to our customers are therefore extremely resilient to the shifts in threats, because the threats, as we said earlier, they look different, but fundamentally they've got the same DNA, right? And so that, at a very high level, is how the fundamental difference between machine learning and deep learning, and why deep learning is so much more suited to prevent bad things from happening, because we can preemptively predict threats that have never been seen before. And again, we actually do some demos, and we have a few slides. Agent Tesla is one. It was created, I want to say it was November 23. We saw it in a customer environment in the middle of in 2024. We prevented it because we knew it was a threat. We didn't have a name for it at the time, right? But we prevented it. Now, we did that with no updates. That's the other big thing that we only update those models maybe once or twice a year. So we have a very low operational overhead as well of doing the updates. But as the threat moves, and we've just talked about AI and the impact, the AI means everything is a 0 day. Everything can be unique and never seen before. And as CISOs, it's really, and as just IT and security, the things that we've relied on before, that I relied on for the last 15 years, are crumbling in the face of the new waves of threats, because what we built is not good for unknown. It is okay for known, and I'd argue that's changing now because of AI, but it was never good at being agile and unknown. And that is a big reason why we're seeing all this success as well.
Right. I think cybersecurity is no longer a tech issue. It's become, because you're building for the unknown, right? So you don't know what's going to come next. And now I've started to think it's become more of a leadership challenge.
100%.
The way I look at it, threats are becoming more autonomous because threat actors are building it out using LLMs, and obviously the solution, like we discussed, is to be able to leverage deep learning, to be able to fight those. But at the helm of all of this is leaders who must evolve to this understanding. Now you obviously been a CISO and a CIO, and you've had this 360-degree view, to what leadership should perhaps look like in cybersecurity moving into 2030, right? So, what's that mindset you feel more CISOs would unlearn?
I think that, in my entire career, I honestly feel that we have not seen something like what we're going through now with AI. And I'm not saying that to be dramatic and whatever. I think it's true. And obviously, I'm doing this, every day. So I think one of the big things, or a couple of the big things for me is, first of all, there's a few challenges being a CISO. The first thing is you must have the buy-in of the company, right? So I'll call it the C-suite, the CEO, the board, right? You mentioned it's not something that can just exist in isolation to tick a box, right? And to be honest, I think most, certainly the bigger companies, they understand that and have given the respect and then the authority of the CISO to start doing the right things.
Right.
I think most all the good CISOs, I mentioned it earlier, they understand their business. They understand that they're there to support their business. They're not there to kind of do something cool and play with the latest toys. That may be part of it, right? But their priority is to be engaged with the business and be a partner of the business, just like HR and other functions are. But security CISO is more imperative almost, because your business isn't going to survive. Now, I think the big challenge that we have is fundamentally more of a accounting and financial one.
Okay.
Because, and this is the challenge, is we like what we know.
Yeah.
Right. So if you think, I'm trying not to mention specific things, but some of the things that I deployed in the last 10 years, I know are still there and still serving a purpose. But there are some things that ultimately you may have spent 20 years with a particular vendor, with a particular company, with a particular suite of products, and you invested in that. You've invested not only money into equipment and software, you've invested into your teams, into training them so that they're the best at using whatever that product is. You've almost certainly in my role, having a partnership with a vendor was paramount to my success, right? I could never do it on my own. I could never build the things that the vendors build, that people like Deep Instinct build. There are no deep learning people at Citi, even if we had the idea to do it, right?
Yeah.
So you have a relationship. So you've invested time, energy, emotion into something that has served you well for the last 10 years or so. It is really hard to admit that it's crumbling and that you need something new, because the threat landscape has shifted, and it has certainly shifted in the last 3 years. And now what you know is no longer good enough.
Right.
And you have to kind of go, and unfortunately, your legacy vendor is not able to keep up, and we see it all the time.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we're not going to talk names, but the audience knows,
Yeah.
right? So you see it all the time that they fade off. So that is a fundamental part of being a mindset change for the CISO. Is you can no longer just rely on the stuff that used to work. It doesn't work anymore. And here's the thing. Depending on the size of your company, you need time to pivot. You need time to put whatever the new thing is in place, retire the old thing. You need time to train people up. You need time to work out the kinks. There's always kinks. I used to run operations. Nothing is ever smooth, right? So you need time, and the time is now.
Yeah.
Actually, I would argue the time
That
was
was-
probably last year, but you should be starting now.
Probably. Given the
And we see in our like voice of the SecOps that you mentioned, I think it said two in five of the respondents has seen AI-powered cyber attacks. That's their definition of whatever that is. When I saw that, I'm like, the other three just don't know it.
Yeah,
Right.
could be very.
There is no way on this planet that somebody has not seen a AI-powered phishing attack. Right. It is. The stats, I think phishing went up 1,300% after ChatGPT was launched in the following months.
Oh God.
Why? Because the bad actors, they have no constraints. They don't have to answer to anybody, right? And actually, just pivoting back, the bad actors were in the same place. They had all their rootkits, they had all their frameworks that they've been using for the last 10, 15 years. They bypass EDR. All day long. You can Google that. Some of it EDR killer and others are open source. So they have all that. What they did when AI LLMs and specifically when the ChatGPT made the big splash, they abandoned that. And they abandoned that really quick. Why? Because they're like, oh, hey, if we spend a little time getting to grips with this and we're going to remove the safeguards and whatever, we know it's going to be better. So they just moved away from that investment. And that's why they're on the front foot right now, right? Bottom line. Companies, unfortunately, have finance departments and other things. And it's like, hey, Carl, you only bought that a couple of years ago. And you're like, well, I got something to show you, right?
Yeah.
And then you show them the 0-day create a malware demo that we can run for you, and the deepfake demo, and then you hopefully you can convince your business leaders, hey, there's been a big shift. And unfortunately, cyber doesn't work in multi-year, right? It's constantly evolving. It's not static.
Yeah. It almost feels like AI-driven digital transformation was accepted much faster by threat actors as against companies.
100%.
They just.
It is usually the case if you look back in history. If you look at cryptocurrencies, just as a recent example, right? I hate to say it, right? It's usually the bad actors who seek ways to take advantage of new technology quicker. And why is that? It's the things I've just said, right? That is, you got to remember, that is their business, right? Most of these bad actors, they're just in it for money. They just want to make, they're in it for profit, just like everybody. You have nation state actors and you have activist kind of thing, different mentality for sure. Same kind of approach, but they have a different goal. But most of what you see, ransomware, password breaches, it's extortion, and they sell it on the dark web, right? Ultimately, it's for profit.
Right.
So that's their motivation, and that's their primary business.
Correct.
So if you think of it as a business.
Then
they're not constrained. They don't have a finance department saying, "Hey, Carl, that asset hasn't fully depreciated yet," right? Like they don't have any of that.
Yeah.
So again, as a CISO, you've got to partner not only with the business but with all your supporting functions. Make sure they understand ahead of time. Constant education and communication. I try to stay away from scare tactics.
Yeah.
Oh, the world's falling, because it's like cry wolf. So you keep it real. I'd rather consistent, but they need to understand. So, in one of my working with the finance team, they used to depreciate assets over 7 years. I'm like, that's a lot. Like that's beyond a lifetime. So we moved it down at least to 3. Maybe some was a bit, depending on what it is, right? Because obviously everything's a little bit different. But we did that years ago because I'm like, hey, I can't guarantee that what I put in today is going to be effective in 7 years, right? And I was really right. Not just on the AI, but on other things too. That's just cybersecurity for you. It's fast.
All right. So obviously, Carl, we've unpacked a lot. Let's lighten the mood now a little. Would love for our audiences to get to know you as a person, just not the title, and the expertise that you bring to the table. So
this is the most watched part of your show, right?
Yeah, yes, it is. It is the rapid fire.
Okay.
All right. So let me just fire up the questions, and you're good to go. Yeah. So first thing that comes to mind: no overthinking. All right. First tech gadget that you ever fell in love with.
ZX81. So in the UK, Sir Clive Sinclair. My dad was a teacher, and he actually bought one home for the weekend. Mm-hmm. And I'd just like, how does this thing work? I ended up writing my first program.
Oh, nice.
I'm trying to think how old I was, 8 or 9 maybe.
Oh.
And that got me into computing. That was it. And I remember saying, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's going to involve computers at the time.
Growing up, were you more of a rule follower or a rule breaker?
Just said my dad was a teacher, so take a guess. Rule follower. Firm but fair at home. A very loving home, but firm but fair.
You got 3 hours with 0 notifications. How would you spend it?
If I have 3 hours, I'm probably going to go to the gym or a walk or cycle, have a coffee, and then I've got 3 dogs. So after all of that, get on the couch with a book with the dogs.
One place in the world that changed your perspective?
The one that sticks out is Normandy.
Oh.
Anybody who's been there, it was such a... I took my children and my wife. We did a family.
One last one before we let you go. What's the weirdest productivity hack that actually works for you?
Oh, productivity hack. When I get stuck, instead of just looking at the screen, or to be honest, and I think we just need to realize that we are people, and that, you have energy levels through the day, and when your mind's full and whatever, just step away. I actually like to clean the kitchen usually, because it's usually the thing that's
Me too.
And honestly, the number of times that I've just stepped up away from something I usually make a cup of coffee or tea, and then I start cleaning, and then I have the aha moment 5 minutes later, right? I think we have this mentality, certainly in the West, of working crazy long hours and whatever, and that's like the right sign. No, the outcome is what matters. How you get there, doesn't really matter to a degree, and if people can understand that they need breaks, they need to step away, and we are people at the end of the day. They'll find that they'll if they listen to themselves a little bit more, they'll be a lot more productive. And obviously, looking after yourself is number one in my book.
In fact, there is a very interesting study, Carl, I'd come across, which says that the daily mundane tasks that you do is when you're actually at the back of the mind processing the biggest or the most challenging tasks that are lined up for the day or the month, the year, whatever.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, I'm a cleaner myself. Every time, I'm doing something, I start cleaning, my wife looks at me, okay, you're in work mode, I figured it. But yeah, good. All right, so that's a wrap for today's episode of Discover Dialogues. A huge thank you, Carl, for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Any parting words?
No, thank you for the opportunity, Vikram. I think we went all over the place today, so that was good. Yeah. And no, like I say, the most important thing your audience can do, first and foremost, is to look after themselves so that they can look after their friends and their family and their work. They're my parting words.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, or your favorite podcast app. Catch past episodes and more at techdogs.com. See you next time.